What about a higher insulation value or a value that's not there in the library? How do you enter that in?
Okay, so if you take a look at the library, we've got R11, R13, R19, R30, R38. Okay, probably there, but if it's not, you can do one of two things. Number one, you can import a roof and say, okay, I'm going to go get a roof. And you'll see there's a more sophisticated list here that you can pick from. This is a list the Energy Commission publishes. And so you can see there's an R60 roof if you want it. There's an R49. There's a 21. There's a 22. Okay, so there's a more sophisticated list. So that would be one way to do it, and probably your best way to do it. Okay, your second way to do it is you could say, okay, this is not going to be an R38 roof, because I've specified right now the insulation's R38. I'm going to add additional insulation here in the roof of R2. So now I've just created an R38 plus R2 additional insulation equals an R40 roof. Okay, and you can see over here EnergyPro recalculates the overall U factor and overall R value. So we're basically got an R38 roof plus an additional R2, plus when you take into account the roofing, the sheetrock, and all of that, you end up with an overall of about an R42. So if you really want to be right down to putting a precise number in, that would be how you would do it. Okay, next question.
Sure. How do you model knee walls? So you don't have a flat roof interior attic space. If you've got parts of the attic that come up a couple feet inside of the attic area. Yeah,
just treat that. You can get a little bit more sophisticated with this. So let's take an example here. You would take and model your wall, okay, and what you would do with your wall is you would create a new version of that wall. So I'll hit the plus sign here, and that created a copy of my R0 wall, and I'll call this attic knee wall, and you'll specify here that the solar reflectance on this wall is 1, in which case you now have basically a wall that is not going to see solar gain as you would in a conventional exterior wall. So that's the one key element there, is to create a new wall, make sure it sees no sun there, and there's your wall. Okay, next question.
Okay, so we have some questions about can you model the attic as a separate zone? If you turn it into, I think some contractors are interested in ways to either turn it into conditioned space by properly sealing the attic, or if there's some other aspects of the attic that they want to, they're doing something different than the usual, I suppose. How to model that?
Yep. Okay. So now keep in mind that when we select the attic here, that this is an attic, what EnergyPro is actually doing is it is modeling it as a separate zone in the model. It uses a calculation called UZM, the unconditioned zone model, and it creates that whole zone and models it as such. Now, so you can stick with that, and you can make all these sophisticated changes we described here. Now, if you wanted to get even more sophisticated, and let's say you're going to propose to them that you're going to go up there and you're going to spray insulation into the rafters, and you're going to insulate the roof with spray-on insulation, and you're going to turn the attic into, quote, a conditioned circumstance, then what you would do here is you would go ahead and specify for the, let me go to the alternative here. So when you specify your alternative, instead of specifying R38 roof with attic, you would now specify that you have an R38 roof cathedral, because what you've done is you've now moved the insulation up here under the roof surface, as opposed to having the insulation down here and this being conditioned space. So the simple change would be to move the insulation up to here and specify for EnergyPro now that this is a cathedral circumstance. And now you've just modeled the attic space as being a, I don't want to say partially conditioned space, but part of the conditioned envelope, so to speak. When you do that, you probably also need to specify for EnergyPro that and this is where you probably want to do two models, a before and after. In the after model, you would probably want to go into the system level of the tree, and you would probably want to specify under distribution that your ducts were now located in, quote, conditioned space, because that is now considered to be conditioned space. Okay, next question.
Okay, so we have lots of interest on the questions list. Just as just so everyone knows that's on the call, we may find that we have lots of questions that come through, and we might not have time to hit everybody's question. However, this is both a recorded session that will be available after the webinar is over, so you can always go back and listen again to the session. We will also print out and publish the answers to the questions that we don't get to. So by printout, I mean we'll put it up online and send it out by email to those that were participants in the call. So at some point your question will get answered even if we don't address it on the call. So with that, let's get to the next question. We do have a general question about raters that had a prior version of EnergyPro. If they have EnergyPro 4 or they haven't fully upgraded to the current version, can they use that?
Can they use EnergyPro 4? Well, yeah, the problem with EnergyPro 4 is that the one thing that's missing or not really done really up to probably today's standards is this tab here. So it doesn't really do a nice job of doing all of the appliance and indoor and outdoor lighting calculations. So I wouldn't recommend using version 4 for that reason, but yeah, you're not going to get really good results out of that. But the good news is that if you've got version 4, anybody that has it, the upgrade to version 5, everything is 50% of the the full purchase price. So it tends to be a fairly economical upgrade. I mean, we're talking about probably for the average user, possibly $200, something like that.
Okay, and I will weigh in on, with respect to reporting for the utility rebate programs, we are expecting that people are using the latest version of the software, in part because there are certain features and capabilities of the software that are more recent than EnergyPro 4 in terms of being able to model the home as it's found in the field. Yeah,
yeah. There's been a lot of work done at the Energy Commission level on things like the attic model that I mentioned to you, and that type of thing to give us a much bigger accuracy gains in the attic modeling. So just for that reason alone, you wouldn't want to use 4.
Okay. And you were on the HERS tab just a moment ago. We do have a couple of questions about that, which is where the appliance information and baseload information is entered for the home. One question was, if you are entering in lighting, it didn't appear that a bathroom could be selected as a location. Is that true? And if it's not there, what does one choose?
Well, let's take a look at the locations we have selected. There would be a small closet. There would be a bedroom, walk-in closet, hall, entry, stairs, other. So I'm going to say it's hall, entry, stairs, other is covered by that. Living space, laundry space, kitchen, dining, nook. So it would be under that other.
Okay. Oh, great. We'll do that. And I think there was one other question about that. If the homeowner does not have a dishwasher, is that an option?
This is one of these Energy Commission things. What you would do, according to the Energy Commission, when we do these calculations on appliances, there's this inherent assumption that they have a dishwasher. So what I would do is I would just take the energy factor here, and I would just set it to a number like, I'm not sure what it will take. Okay, so a number like 2 or whatever, and that'll take the dishwasher out of the equation. So just set the energy factor up real high.
Okay. I'm going to have to get back to that in a moment. Okay. All right. With respect to billing data, we have a few questions regarding that. Can billing data be imported instead of entered manually?
Okay, so we're over on the calibration screen. Do we have the ability to import it? No, and the reason we don't have the ability to import it is we've yet to see a standardized published format that any of the utilities have agreed upon. So if you can show me a standardization that the utilities are all publishing this utility data in, then I will be more than glad to configure it so that it can import it. And I know the utilities have talked about that, okay? But until I see it, there is no standardized reporting that I'm aware of. But we're more than happy to do it if it ever shows up, or when it shows up.
And with respect to this screen on calibration, if there is a big difference between utility bills and what the model is predicting, what can be done to get those numbers to align or get closer in terms of the model? Is it something that the model, you need to change something in the model, or is there some other feature that can be used?
Well, there's probably 2 or 3 possible causes for your utility bills not matching what's calculated in the model. One might be weather variations, where you're obviously using a standardized year for calculating the energy prediction. The reason you want to use a standardized year for calculating the energy prediction is if you use one specific year as the basis of the calculation, this year being a great example, your cooling energy usage is going to be significantly underpredicted for future years. So if we look at this summer, everything's been cool, people haven't been running the air conditioning, etc. It would be a very bad thing to base your future predictions on energy savings for the homeowner. So right away, you can jump in and look at weather patterns as being one possible explanation for that. The second is you may have legitimate modeling inconsistencies or problems in what you've input into EnergyPro. So you probably want to take a look at things like the duct leakage. Did you do a test in, test out on the duct leakage? If not, then it's anybody's guess as to what's going on there. The building envelope leakage, once again, if you don't have hard numbers there, that's going to be a very hard one to predict. So it could be things like modeling corrections that need to be made. And then the final thing, which is another big variation, is do we have from the homeowner a really good representation of their habits and that type of thing. So you might have somebody like me who, if you were to walk in and audit my home right now, you would see a refrigerator in my garage, and you'd immediately put that into your calculations. Well, as it turns out, that refrigerator in my garage is unplugged and stays unplugged, except for probably over the holidays for when we have guests. And so there's an example of where you want to start to take a look at just telling the EnergyPro that you got a garage refrigerator probably it wouldn't be appropriate in my case. So there's things like that where you're going to need to look at what the homeowner's really doing there and possibly make adjustments to the model to reflect that.
And there is a checkbox that says normalize billing data there on the bottom of this screen. Is
That's true.
Useful? And how if so, how?
Yeah, okay, so that's true. That is what this will do, if I put it on all the data and whatnot, is this will come along and this will actually go get the actual weather year, and it will give you this white prediction here, which represents what was really going on for that year. And that takes, and it reads the data from the NOAA website for that particular specific year, in this case 1/1/2009, and then tries to match that up with the data that you've put into EnergyPro. Okay? So, yeah, that's a way to then say, okay, using the normalized data, that kind of takes the weather out of the equation. Now, for those of you using the software, if you check this box and you get, when you check that box, an error message from EnergyPro saying, we could not contact the NOAA website, that would indicate that you guys have a firewall, which is blocking EnergyPro. Because the minute you check that box, EnergyPro goes out to the internet, goes to the NOAA website, and it attempts to download the data from the NOAA website. Now, most firewalls, when they see software going out to the website, immediately assume you've got a virus because it's going to download something from their website